Nigeria's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, the President receives German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier. President Bola Tinubu reiterates his administration's commitment to enhancing the partnership between Nigeria and Germany. ECOWAS calls for collective action to tackle money laundering and terrorism financing in the West African region. The House of Representatives resolves to investigate activities of the Customs Service over alleged smuggling and maltreatment of Nigerians. And Prime Minister of Syria's new transitional government says it is time for people to enjoy stability and calm after the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad.
On business news, Nigeria's crude oil production rises to about 1.49 million barrels per day in November, and that's according to OPEC's latest report.
On sports news tonight, FIFA confirms Morocco, Spain and Portugal as 2030 World Cup hosts, while Saudi Arabia gets the nod to host the 2034 edition.
And from Abuja, 2 people killed by an IED explosion in a 200 housing estate under construction in Dalwa, Borno State.
Nigeria and Germany have started their plans to strengthen the relationship between both countries and build partnerships that will be fulfilling and rewarding to the two countries and their citizens. President Bola Tinubu said this after his meeting with the President of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who was on a state visit to the presidential villa. He also assured his guests that Nigeria is open for business and his reforms are working very well. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, reports.
Arrival of President Frank-Walter Steinmeier of Germany at the State House. He's received by his host, President Bola Tinubu. Receives a salute and is escorted to inspect a guard of honor. He also receives a 21-gun salute. He's then led inside for bilateral talks. According to a statement from the presidency afterwards, President Tinubu touched on his efforts to ensure stability in the ECOWAS sub-region. The statement quotes the president saying, "Our relationship of mutual respect will continue as we reappraise the situation in the 3 countries. We have innocent citizens who are victims of the military. We'll continue to explore diplomatic channels to navigate without punishing the innocent people. We'll continue to allow free movement and trade. Though the transition program is not sure or certain, we will not punish the innocent citizens. They are not in possession of power." End of quote. After the meeting between delegations of both countries, it was time to speak to the press.
Our business doors are open and our reforms are working very well, being business friendly. That's what we have discussed. We plan to strengthen the relationship and build partnership that is fulfilling and rewarding to the two countries.
We're happy that Nigeria is Germany's second largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa, but there is great potential, even greater potential. There's greater opportunities, and we want to tap into this potential in the coming years.
They also touch on their partnership in the energy and electricity sector.
The Siemens Energy is working very hard. It's promoting the partnership unhindered. Nigeria being a nation in a hurry, we want a magical response. But don't forget various transmission lines. It's over 50, 60 years old.
There's a lot of sun in Nigeria, and Germany has the necessary technology. So this makes us perfect partners.
After this, President Tinubu then sees his guest off. This is the second high-profile visit from Germany following the visit of Chancellor Olaf Scholz late last year, and it makes clear the desire by both countries to deepen their relations for the benefit of their people. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
The ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level has called for cooperation and collective action to tackle money laundering and terrorism financing to combat security challenges in the West African region. The council made the call at the opening of its 53rd ordinary session held in Abuja, where it says the ECOWAS standby force will soon be operationalized. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense from the Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS, are meeting in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, for the 53rd ordinary session of the Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, chairs the meeting, which focuses on addressing the political situation, security challenges, and humanitarian problems in the ECOWAS region.
As the ECOWAS Regional Action Plan on the fight against terrorism concludes this year, this meeting offers a critical opportunity to chart a forward-looking strategy to bolster our collective security architecture and sustain the momentum in addressing these threats. Furthermore, our efforts to operationalize the ECOWAS standby force are advancing steadily. We have already received cost implications for its activation, and at this session, we anticipate updates from the ECOWAS Commission on the modalities for mobilizing the required resources to make this initiative a reality.
The president of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Torre, shares the same views as he urges members to recommit to the values of ECOWAS.
It is time to tighten the loose ends to protect our people, our institutions, and our way of life, and strengthen trust and confidence of our people in state and regional institutions. Excellencies, your deliberations in this session will broadly be about these issues.
The United Nations pledges support for ECOWAS.
UNOWAS will continue to support national and regional efforts to ensure peace and stability, enhance democracy and good governance, including through inclusive political processes and socio-economic developments, with a special emphasis on economic empowerment of women and youth.
The ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council lauds the achievements recorded in the area of maritime security within the ECOWAS maritime domain and hopes to sustain the tempo. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
The Nigeria Governors Forum is holding an in-person meeting at the forum's secretariat in the nation's capital of Abuja. Already, there are over 15 state governors, mainly of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, that are present. The agenda of the meeting has not been disclosed to journalists yet. However, the governors had promised to take a stance on the raging issues about the tax reforms. We will bring you updates on the meeting as we get them. Now to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives has raised concern over the increasing activities of one-chance operators in the Federal Capital Territory. In a motion moved by Honorable Billy Osewaru, representing Orienwa-Onwode Federal Constituency in Edo State during plenary, he cited the lack of synergy between the Nigeria police and financial institutions, which makes it difficult for victims to recover their monies. Meanwhile, the House has moved to investigate the activities of the Nigerian Customs Service over alleged smuggling and maltreatment of Nigerians in the course of carrying out their duties. Our correspondent, Kumbi Abuluade, tells us more.
It's the second day of plenary at the House of Representatives, and a number of issues are brought to the floor. Citing an incident involving a journalist in Badagry, Lagos State earlier this month, who was allegedly assaulted by officers of the Nigerian Customs Service, a motion to investigate the activities of the service in connection with smuggling and maltreatment of Nigerians takes precedent.
The House is further aware that the actions of some officers within the Nigerian Customs Service contravene its core mandate, erode public trust, and raise concerns about oversight of joint security operations involving military personnel. So the House resolved to 1, mandate the Committee on Customs and Excise jointly with the Committee on Defense to investigate the operations and activities of the Nigerian Customs Service.
Meanwhile, a bill to amend the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act to include compulsory counseling and training of corruption convicts is read for the second time.
Correctional facilities shouldn't just be a place you take them to, you restrain their movement for months, for years. They also need to go through proper counseling, training, and let them know the extent of the offense, and let them know that they are being punished not just because the government wants to punish them, but because of the effects of corruption.
The bill scales second reading.
And apprehend the criminals.
The Green Chamber is also drawn to the incessant operations of one chance in the Federal Capital Territory.
On a daily basis, cases of such abound, including that of our children, relatives, staff, secretaries, and if nothing urgent is done to curb these activities of one chance in FCT Abuja and other states in general, and its perpetrators brought to book, FCT may not be safe for every one of us to stay.
Among other things, this motion, which has now been referred to the Committee on Financial Institutions, will allow for the Nigerian police and financial institutions to provide timely information for the recovery of stolen funds of victims of one chance and other criminal activities. From the foyer of the National Assembly, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
To the courts now, where the Kano State High Court has adjourned the hearing of preliminary objections in the high-profile bribery and misappropriation case involving the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, and 7 others to February the 13th, 2025. The case instituted by the Kano State government involves an 8-count charge of bribery, misappropriation, and diversion of public funds allegedly amounting to billions of naira. Alongside Abdullahi Ganduje, the defendants include his wife Hafsat Umar and others, Abubakar Bawuro, Umar Abdullahi Umar, Jibrila Mohammed, Lamash Properties Limited, Safari Textiles Limited, and Lesage General Enterprises Limited. At Wednesday's hearing, legal representatives for the defendants presented a flurry of motions and applications, leading to the court's decision to consolidate and adjourn for a unified hearing. The counsel for Abdullahi Ganduje and 2 other defendants, M.N. Duru, a senior advocate of Nigeria, holding brief for Ofyong, requested the court to strike out an earlier application dated October 21st, seeking facilities and a witness statement. However, counsel for the applicants, Adiola Adelikwe, a senior advocate of Nigeria, argued that Abdullahi Ganduje's withdrawal application should be dismissed rather than struck out. Justice Amina Adamu Aliyu then ruled on the matter, striking out Ganduje's application and overruled objections raised by the applicants. In part 2, after the break, River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, tax administrators call for broader tax base to address economic challenges in Nigeria. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you are watching the News at 10 live in Channels Television, broadcasting from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The President receives German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier. President Bola Tinubu reiterates his administration's commitment to enhancing the partnership between Nigeria and Germany. ECOWAS calls for collective action to tackle money laundering and terrorism financing in the West African region. House of Representatives resolves to investigate activities of the Customs Service over alleged smuggling and maltreatment of Nigerians. And Prime Minister of Syria's new transitional government says it is time for people to enjoy stability and calm after the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. We're saying that the courts and the Lagos State High Court sitting in Ikeja has struck out an alleged 4.8 billion naira fraud charge filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against the chairman of Ibeto Energy Development Company, Chief Cletus Ibeto. Justice Oyindamola Ogala struck out the charge after counsel to the EFCC, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Rotimi Jacobs, informed the court that Chief Ibeto had refunded over 3.2 billion naira of the money he was accused of stealing from the alleged victim, Chief Daniel Chukwudozie. Mr. Jacobs also informed the judge that both the defendants and the complainant had met with the EFCC and agreed to settle the matter out of court. The defense lawyer, Adebayo Oshodi, confirmed in court that an agreement had been reached, resulting in the refund unresolved. Still in the courts, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, has granted an order of interim injunction restraining Lagos-based legal practitioner Dele Farotimi, whether acting by himself or his representatives, from further publishing, selling, circulating, advertising, or distributing the physical, hard, digital, or even soft copies of the book Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. Justice Peter Kekemeke granted the order after listening to the ex parte application filed by the claimant, the managing partner at Afe Babalola's law firm, senior advocate of Nigeria, Kehinde Ogunmiju. Now, the judge also temporarily restrains the agents, publishers, distributors, sellers, republishers, resellers, or any other person howsoever described, including Dele Farotimi Publishers, Amazon Online Bookstore, Roving Heights Bookstore, Booksellers Bookstore, Jazz Hall, Lagos Bookstore, Glendora Bookshop, Quintessence Lagos Bookstore, and Pataba Books Limited from further publishing, selling, circulating, advertising, or distributing the physical, hard, digital, soft copies of the book online, electronically, physically, or by any other means, including on social media. Now, the court's order was granted pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction dated and filed on December the 6th. And now to the upper legislative chamber, where the Senate has declared the Edo Central senatorial seat vacant and called on the electoral umpire INEC to conduct a by-election to fill the seat. Now, the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, made the announcement following the emergence of Senator Monday Okpebholo as governor of Edo State. Now, the seat was declared vacant during a valedictory session for Governor Okpebholo in the Red Chamber. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has emphasized the need for governments at all levels to expand their tax base to effectively address the needs of the populace. Governor Fubara made the statement while declaring open the 156th meeting of the Joint Tax Board in Port Harcourt. He noted that the current economic challenges necessitating broadening the tax base, but cautioned against initiatives that would increase the financial burden on citizens. The deliberations at the meeting include discussions on creating an effective tax system for both workers and non-workers, the judiciary's role in tax administration, and leveraging data for efficient tax management in Nigeria.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Joint Tax Board meeting is the premier gathering of key stakeholders in Nigeria's tax sector, and the 156th session taking place in Port Harcourt. The River State capital is no exception. In attendance are chairpersons of tax agencies at federal and subnational levels, heads of revenue-generating agencies like the Nigeria Customs Service and Nigeria Immigration Service, members of the business community, and top officials of the River State government led by Governor Siminalayi Fubara. This session comes at a critical time when government at all levels are under pressure to maximize revenue generation amidst rising inflations while avoiding measures that could stifle businesses.
In this meeting, we shall be having opportunities to have insight to how to improve our revenues, to have strategies that will come out of this meeting that will improve our revenue generation for the betterment of our state and for the betterment of Nigeria as a nation.
Declaring the session open, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, a former Accountant General of River State, emphasizes the need for its administration to support the revenue agency to broaden the tax base while cautioning against imposing undue burdens on citizens.
In River State, our approach position is not to impose more tax on our people, but to broaden our tax base without increasing the rates, which has enabled us to generate more internal revenue, as evident in the increasing collection figure on a month-by-month basis.
As discussions unfold, tax administrators from various states highlight the need to address gaps in income tax generation.
In terms of tax evasion, people using legitimate tax planning structures, a lot of HNIs exploit this, so you have to train your staff to be able to counter that. Then in terms of resistance to compliance, we know that that's a big problem.
And going through the crude data we have, I noticed that most taxpayers do not even pay taxes above 100,000. So if you look at the benchmark of $1 million, then it seems we do not need to create such a department in the states.
The Joint Tax Board plays a vital role in advising all tiers of government on tax policies, ensuring efficient tax administration, and resolving jurisdictional conflicts among member states. This session in Port Harcourt's River State is particularly significant given the federal government's ongoing tax reform initiatives and the need to safeguard states' interests.
DW, Germany international broadcaster, has described its collaboration with Channels Television on the production of Eco Africa, an environment magazine program, as reliable, trustworthy, and mutually rewarding. The head of environment at DW, Vanessa Fisher, said this during a visit to Channels Television's headquarters in Lagos in preparation for the Ecolab workshop, which aims to explore and integrate young people's media consumption into the production and development of the content for Eco Africa. Now, participants for the two-day workshop, which holds on the 12th and the 13th of this month, are drawn from tertiary institutions in Lagos.
Our aim is to better understand the young generation and the young users who are not necessarily using TV as we used to use TV, but they are on social media, on digital platforms, and they are consuming different content. And we as journalists have the huge task to reach young people. Nigeria is a very young country with so many young people, and the intention of the workshop is really to listen to them, to reach them, and to develop ideas together, to give them the chance to give us an idea on how they want to be reached and with what content they want to be reached. This partnership has been from the beginning a very reliable partnership. I mean, 2016, we have been on this together for so many years, and we have built up a lot of trust between each other, and this is something that is super important in our days, in this collaboration of media houses that still stand for the journalism and the ethics. And we have with channels the right partner to continue on that path, to be independent and to promote the ethics of journalism. This is wonderful.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's crude oil production rises to about 1.49 million barrels per day in November, and that's according to OPEC's latest report. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. Let's now head to the nation's capital, where Victoria Longjohn is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Victoria.
Many thanks, Ayo. 2 people have allegedly been killed by an IED explosion in a 200-housing estate under construction in Dalwa area of Borno State. Available information indicates that the explosion occurred around 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. About the time, the governor of Borno State, Babangida Zulum, and his Yobe State counterpart, May Mala Buni, were commissioning housing estates built by Borno State government in Maiduguri, the state capital. Dalwa is 175 kilometers from Maiduguri and is one of the many communities destroyed and displaced by Boko Haram. Professor Zulum embarked on the reconstruction of Dalwa community with 200 houses approved in the first phase of the reconstruction. And stakeholders within the beer sectoral group, a subsector of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and other stakeholders have called on Nigerians to shun drinking of alcohol whenever they are behind the wheels. They gave the advice during the launch of the year 2024 Don't Drink and Drive campaign in Lagos as the Christmas and New Year festivities get into full swing. Of the beer sectoral group, Federal Road Safety Corps, and the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, are all present to ensure road crashes, especially those influenced by alcohol consumption, are reduced to the barest minimum. With over 45,000 road crashes recorded in the year 2022, stakeholders are determined to ensure alcohol does not contribute to accidents on roads, especially during the festive seasons.
We believe celebrations and enjoyment should never come at the cost of lives. We urge all Nigerians to make responsible choices.
One of the points highlighted here is the number of children involved in Nigeria's road accidents.
Road traffic injuries are the leading cause of death for children between the ages of 5 and 14 in sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, so we're not left out of the statistics.
On his part, the sector commander, Federal Road Safety Corps, says safety on the road is a collective duty.
You should speak up against dangerous drivers, as crashes kill more passengers than drivers. You can imagine just one driver, out of carelessness of drunken driving, kill the passengers that are 4, 8, 16, 20, 50, 100 passengers.
Alcohol-induced accidents are man-made and would require collaboration to bring the menace to a halt.
So we're very proud to be sponsoring this, and you can see also the attendance and the energy in the room that there's real appetite to really improve the conditions on the roads of Nigeria.
Corporates need to take it upon themselves and be responsible about their role in this society. And I think if we do that, we can make a change.
Others believe it is better not to consume any form of alcohol before driving.
It's better not to drink because there are a level of alcoholic content that will be in your blood that would have impaired your act of driving.
This is a kind of a festive activity which we think it helps us to collaborate and to put down more pressure during this festival on our people, to tell them they have more burden on them during this period.
As the year 2024 Don't Drink and Drive campaign is launched,
the Beer Sectoral Group, FRSC, and the NURTW have promised to work together until alcohol-influenced carnages are completely eliminated from Nigerian roads.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's now back to Ayo for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Victoria. The Managing Director of the Bank of Industry, Mr. Olashopo Olusi, has been giving updates on the disbursement of the 75 billion naira manufacturing sector bond, or fund rather. While speaking at an interactive session with members of the organized private sector in Abuja, Mr. Olusi explains that 22.89 billion naira has so far been disbursed to 29 manufacturing companies, while 20 projects valued at 6.3 billion naira are at different stages of disbursement. The BOI boss also explains that about 658.37 billion naira have been disbursed to 713 beneficiaries.
It is an interactive session between the management of the Bank of Industry and members of the organized private sector, including the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, and Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. The meeting is geared towards fostering a partnership that will assist the realization of the federal government's industrialization plan, which remains a core mandate of the Bank of Industry.
Today's session is designed to foster open dialogue and actionable outcomes. We want to hear directly from you, the organized private sector. What are your most pressing challenges in the face of our challenging economic environment? How can we further align our programs and financing instruments to meet your needs? What innovative solutions can we pursue together to solve problems that we face and to accelerate the growth of Nigeria's private sector, our industrial sector, and our economy at large?
One after the other, representatives of the associations praised the bank for its intervention and credit facilities. One key issue in their conversation is the impact of the facilities on job creation and business expansion.
There is need for us to go beyond the normal business transaction environment and have an interactive engagement that allows us to address the salient issues that have continued to make it, that has continued to limit the performance of the manufacturing sector in spite of the intervention of BOI.
They listened to us, they took a lot of feedbacks from us on the federal government intervention, and also we gave them a lot of insights. And also we agreed that we'll have a working group that will continue to meet regularly to evaluate our conversation around their products and services and the federal government intervention, the 5 million naira and the 75 billion naira for manufacturers.
Some of the key missions of the bank includes providing financial assistance for the establishment of large, medium, and small projects, as well as the expansion, diversification, rehabilitation, and modernization of existing enterprises. The bank plans to achieve this through synergy with these key partners.
Will Ibong is standing by to take us through the latest in the world of business. Will?
Thank you, Ayo. Nigeria's crude oil production has risen to 1.49 million barrels per day in November from 1.33 million barrels per day recorded in October, and that's according to OPEC's latest monthly oil market report. The 152,000 barrels per day increase in output to 1.45 million barrels per day represents a significant rise. However, this figure remains below OPEC's production quota for Nigeria. Meanwhile, Nigeria retains its leading position on the chart for Africa's top oil producers within OPEC. At the same time, Nigeria's oil rig count remained unchanged in the month of November at 11. And the Benue State Governor, Aicent Ali, has unveiled the 2025 themed budget of human capital development, food and security, digital economy at the State House of Assembly in Makurdi. The proposed 550.1 billion naira budget prioritizes infrastructure, agriculture, education and health, with infrastructure topping the list at 110 billion naira, followed by agriculture at 84 billion naira, education and health at 82.5 billion naira each. Governor Alia describes the budget as a roadmap for progress and sustainability tailored to address current realities and the aspirations of the people. Let's check in on the domestic stock market, which sustained positive sentiment at the close of trade as investors cast bullish eyes on Aradel. John McQuarrie tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it was not a dead cat bounce. After all, we have a second winning today at the NGX, and Aradel is back in the news today. Each of the stocks gained 35 naira. That's a huge gain to close at 500 naira. So, well, investors in Aradel are smiling today. Let's look at the sectors now to see other parts of happenings at the NGX. Banking recovered from yesterday's drop, so it's up this day. 0.06% is what we see. Zenith Bank, UBA, FBN Holdings, you might say the normal suspects. And consumer goods also slightly up because of Golden Brewery. PZ also contributed to that, Nigerian brewery as well. The consumers sector seems to be having a lot of activity. Oil and gas is retaining that shine that it started yesterday. Aradel, remember? Corn Oil, and then Owando, Japo Gold, and they have almost 3% gain. So I guess investors in the oil and gas sector are the ones that are really the winners for today. And of course, it's to the joy of the bull.
Thank you, Ini. We hope to see that momentum carry on in tomorrow's trading session. Now, in the U.S. markets, the Nasdaq Composite surged Wednesday after November's inflation report met economists' projections, clearing the way for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates again at its December meeting. That's next week. The tech-heavy Nasdaq index rose 1.7% to reach 20,000 for the first time ever. Let's see the closing numbers and those of other major stock markets. That's a wrap on business. It's back to Ayatunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. Still to come on the news at 10, FBI Director Christopher Wray to resign before Donald Trump takes office as U.S. President. Join us again. Welcome back. The head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Mr. Christopher Wray, says he will resign before President-elect Donald Trump takes office next month. Now, in recent years, Mr. Wray has fallen out of favor with the President-elect after the FBI assisted with a federal probe into Trump's handling of classified documents, a case that has since been dropped. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Prime Minister of Syria's new transitional government has said it is time for people to enjoy stability and calm after the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad.
اليوم تم عقد جلسة مجلس الوزراء.
Mohammed al-Bashir, the former head of the rebel administration in the northwest, was speaking after being tasked with governing until March 2025 by the Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It came as the UN envoy for Syria said the rebels must transform their good messages into practice on the ground. The US Secretary of State said Washington would recognize and fully support a future Syrian government so long as it emerged from a credible, inclusive process that respected minorities.
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is using the right words, but we will of course judge them not by those words, but by their actions over the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming months. We recognize Syria as a state. We have not recognized the HTS as the governing authority in Syria. We have not recognized them as the government of Syria.
Israel has confirmed it carried out attacks on Syria's naval fleet as part of its efforts to neutralize military assets in the country after the fall of the Assad regime. The IDF said its ships struck the ports of Al-Baida and Latakia, where 15 vessels were docked. Here, videos showing blasts at the port of Latakia, with footage appearing to show extensive damage to ships and parts of the port. The IDF said its warplanes had conducted more than 350 airstrikes on targets across Syria. Meanwhile, the country's leader and the first serving president to take the witness stand as a defendant in a criminal case has described corruption charges against him as absurd. Netanyahu's lawyer portrayed the corruption trial as biased and said his client was the victim of a political witch hunt. In the trial that is taking place in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu said he had been waiting 8 years for this moment to tell the truth. The man accused of shooting dead healthcare insurance CEO Brian Thompson in New York has jostled with police and shouted at reporters as he was led into court.
And it's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
As more details emerged about a potential motive in the killing, Luigi Mangione appeared at an extradition hearing in Pennsylvania. Wearing an orange jumpsuit, he was heard shouting at journalists before being bundled into court by officers. He was arrested on Monday after he was spotted at a McDonald's following a days-long manhunt that spanned several states. Police have raided the office of the South Korean President, Yoon Suk-yeol. It marks a dramatic escalation of the probe against Yoon and top police and military officers over the surprise December the 3rd martial law declaration that plunged Asia's fourth largest economy into a constitutional crisis. Dozens of flower garlands carrying messages of support for the embattled president could be seen arranged along the outer walls of the presidential office compound. Police in Ghana have arrested more than 100 people, mostly opposition supporters of the president-elect John Mahama, over acts of lawlessness. Supporters of the newly elected president, who want jobs, have allegedly attacked some state institutions, looted properties, and engaged in disturbances that have left some police and military personnel injured. The irate supporters also torched 2 electoral commission officers due to a delay in announcing the outcome of Saturday's elections and disagreements over some parliamentary results. And the roar of Formula One engines may soon return to South Africa's Kyalami Grand Prix circuit north of Johannesburg as the country pursues hosting an F1 race for the first time since 1993. Africa's biggest racing circuit is making strategic moves to meet the rigorous standards required to host the prestigious motorsport event after a 3-decade hiatus. South Africa's Sports, Arts and Culture Minister said the circuit is 90% ready to host. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has also called for Africa to claim its place in the sport. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Commonwealth Fencing Federation has dispatched a team to monitor the 2024 Men's Junior EP Fencing World Cup scheduled for December 14th and 15th at Charterhouse, Lagos. The federation says the visit is a prerequisite for awarding hosting rights to the maiden nation for the 2026 Commonwealth Fencing Championships. And President of the Federation, Adeyinka Samuel, says the visit is to evaluate the country's organizational and facility capabilities. Charterhouse Lagos has pledged its support to the Nigeria Fencing Federation for the 2026 Commonwealth Championship. And the Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, has confirmed Morocco, Spain and Portugal as the joint hosts of the 2030 World Cup. The decision was announced by FIFA President Gianni Infantino following a virtual extraordinary congress. The combined proposal from Morocco, Spain and Portugal will see the 2030 World Cup take place across 3 continents and 6 nations, with Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay hosting celebratory games to mark the tournament's centenary. The 2030 World Cup will see the opening 3 matches played in a different continent. In the meantime, FIFA also confirmed Saudi Arabia as host of the 2034 World Cup, underlining the Gulf Kingdom's crowning influence in world sports despite criticisms of the country's human rights record. Saudi Arabia already hosted several high-profile events, including a Formula One Grand Prix heavyweight boxing contest, the Live Rival Gulf circuits funded by Saudi's Sovereign Wealth Fund, and the WTA tennis finals. The now 58-team tournament will return to the Middle East after Qatar played host in 2022.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, it is a great pleasure that I can confirm that the host of the FIFA World Cup 2034 will be Saudi Arabia. Mabruk, Mabruk to our friends in Riyadh. Mabruk to everyone.
And we are absolutely counting down to the World Cup in 2030 and 2034. That's sports. I'm Kelly. It's back to Ayotunde.
And the main news again. The President has received German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier. President Bola Tinubu reiterated his administration's commitment to enhancing the partnership between Nigeria and Germany. ECOWAS has called for collective action to tackle money laundering and terrorism financing in the West African region. And the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate activities of the Customs Service over alleged smuggling and maltreatment of Nigerians. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. From all of us here, is good night.